Hello everybody. I'm in the historic town of Washington, Georgia today. This town has been instrumental in the development of the United States in many different ways. Washington played a significant role in both the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. It also has the largest number of antebellum homes in the state of Georgia, more than 100 I have read, and was the home of Robert Toombs, who was a major political force in Georgia and in the Civil War. We will talk about all of this and also take a tour of Toombs Home and the grounds. So let's get started. Washington, Georgia was originally called Hurd's Fort. It was established in 1774 by Stephen Hurd, who was a friend of George Washington. Hurd's Fort was the temporary capital of Georgia for a short while from February 1780 through part of 1781. This area played an important part in the American Revolution, but sadly, no part of Hurd's Fort remains today. Stephen Hurd achieved the rank of lieutenant colonel in the Continental Army, as well as serving in the Georgia House of Representatives from 1779 to 1795, and then as governor of Georgia from May of 1780 until August of 1781. On February the 14th, 1779, the Battle of Kettle Creek was fought in Wilkes County. The confrontation took place about 11 miles from Washington, Georgia. The American patriots won the battle, and it was a huge victory in the War for Independence. Washington is the county seat of Wilkes County and is named in honor of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Wilkes County is named for British politician John Wilkes, who was a supporter of the American independence effort. In the downtown square area of Washington, you will find several points of historical interest. Confederate President Jefferson Davis and what was left of his cabinet held their last meeting here in Washington between May the 3rd and May the 5th of 1865. Other cities, such as Charlotte, North Carolina, Fort Mill, South Carolina, and Abbeville, South Carolina, have also laid claim that the last Confederate cabinet meeting happened in their cities. I have read that during Davis's time in Washington, the Confederate government was dissolved. At any rate, the meeting here in Washington, Georgia, took place at the B.W. Hurd House. I was not able to find any information on B.W. Hurd, but this house was torn down in 1902. The Hurd House was torn down so that a new courthouse could be built. The house was a significant part of not only Civil War era history, but also United States history in general. Nevertheless, the courthouse now sits on the site where B.W. Hurd's house was once located. The construction of the courthouse was completed in 1904. A major fire in 1958 caused extensive damage to the top half of the structure. And because of the damage, the courthouse had a flat roof until 1989, when restoration of the building took place. After the restoration of 1989, the courthouse added a roof that comes close to the original. Also, another clock tower was added, although this tower is shorter than the original. The image you see is the way the courthouse looks today. The Confederate monument that stands directly across the street from the Wilkes County Courthouse was erected in 1908 by the last Cabinet Chapter United Daughters of the Confederacy, Ladies Memorial Association, and Sons of Veterans. The Fitzpatrick Hotel, also located in the town square, was built in 1898 and closed in 1952. Following 50 years of neglect, Fitzpatrick LLC acquired the property in 2002. A thorough restoration effort in June of 2004 led to the hotel's reopening. Today, both the interior and exterior faithfully mirror the luxury of its initial state. As mentioned earlier, Washington, Georgia is also known for the large number of antebellum homes that are located here. These homes typically reflect the architectural styles popular in the American South before the Civil War. These homes often boast grandeur, elegance, and historical significance, showcasing the wealth and lifestyle of the affluent families who built them. Characterized by their large columns, expansive verandas, and symmetrical facades, antebellum homes here in Washington, Georgia exude grace and sophistication. They often feature intricate details such as ornate moldings, intricate woodwork, and spacious interiors with high ceilings. Many of these homes were constructed using traditional building materials such as brick or clapboard, and they often sit on expansive grounds surrounded by gardens or sprawling lawns. Some of these properties may also include outbuildings like carriage houses or slave quarters, providing a glimpse into the social and economic structures of the antebellum South. Seeing these homes offers a window into the past, allowing visitors to explore the architecture, craftsmanship, and history of the region. It's a chance to step back in time of Washington, Georgia's antebellum era. And that brings me to Robert Toombs and his home that is located here in Washington, Georgia. Robert Augustus Toombs was born on July 2, 1810, near Washington. His parents were Robert and Catherine Toombs. His father was wealthy, but died when the younger Robert was 5 years old. As a young boy, Toombs was able to receive a private education and afterwards attended Franklin College, which is now the University of Georgia, and graduated in 1828. He also attended Union College in Schenectady, New York, as well as the University of Virginia. He was admitted to the bar in 1830. Robert Toombs married his childhood sweetheart, Martha Julianne Dubose, she went by Julia, on November 18, 1830. They had 3 children. Lawrence Catlett Toombs was born in 1831 and passed away in 1832 from scarlet fever. Mary Louisa was born in 1833 and passed away in 1855 during labor. Her child also passed away. Sarah was born in 1835, and she also passed away during labor in 1866, as did her 5th child. Robert Toombs began his political career in Georgia state politics as a member of the Georgia House of Representatives from Wilkes County. Having served first in 1838, he would end up serving 3 non-consecutive terms. During his early years in politics, Toombs was a Unionist, as he advocated for the preservation of the Union and maintaining the status quo of slavery. But this would change as the United States edged closer to the Civil War. Toombs was elected to the United States House of Representatives in 1844 and would serve in this capacity until 1853, when he was elected to the United States Senate. Toombs resigned his Senate seat on February 4, 1861, after the state of Georgia had left the Union. Certainly by the late 1850s, Toombs had become a leading proponent of secession. His belief was the Southern states had the right to secede from the Union if they felt their rights were being threatened, particularly in regards to slavery and states' rights. Toombs was aligned with the so-called Fire Eater camp of the Democratic Party, which advocated for extreme measures to protect and expand the institution of slavery. He gave fiery speeches and wrote impassioned essays defending the Southern cause and called for secession. Once Georgia seceded from the Union in 1861, Toombs played a significant role in forming the Confederate government. He had high hopes of being selected to serve as President of the Confederacy, but the Confederate Congress on January 21, 1861, in Montgomery, Alabama, chose Jefferson Davis. Toombs was thought to have a drinking problem, and that was worrisome for his fellow delegates. Toombs did play a role in the initial cabinet of Confederate President Jefferson Davis, as he was appointed the Confederate Secretary of State. He was at odds with Jefferson Davis almost immediately, as he was the only member of the Confederate administration to speak out against the attack on Fort Sumter in South Carolina. Toombs resigned his position on Jefferson's cabinet within a few months of the appointment. Afterwards, in July of 1861, he was commissioned as a Brigadier General and first served in the Confederate Army of the Potomac, later renamed the Army of Northern Virginia. He was involved in the Peninsula Campaign in southeastern Virginia, the Northern Virginia Campaign, and the Maryland Campaign. At the Battle of Antietam in Maryland, while commanding the defense of Burnside's Bridge, his left hand was wounded. Toombs felt that he should receive a promotion, but when none came, he resigned his commission on March 3, 1863, about 6 months after the Battle of Antietam. After he resigned his Confederate Army commission, Toombs returned to Georgia and joined the 3rd Cavalry of the Georgia Militia as a colonel. Afterwards, he served as a Brigadier General and as Adjutant and Inspector General of Gustavus W. Smith's division of the Georgia Militia. During this time, Toombs was very critical of Confederate President Jefferson Davis and the Confederate government. Two of his major objections were the conscription policies and the suspension of habeas corpus by Jefferson Davis. So strong were his objections to these policies, newspapers warned that he was on the verge of treason. Once the Civil War ended, United States soldiers came to Toombs Home in Washington, Georgia, on May 14, 1865, with the intention to arrest him. After the Civil War ended in April of 1865, Toombs faced potential charges of treason, sedition, war crimes, and conspiracy against the United States. In order to avoid these and potentially other charges, he fled the country. He was able to escape to Alabama and then to New Orleans, from there to Cuba, and then to Paris, France in early July of 1865. At some point, Toombs' wife joined him in Paris, but she returned home when their daughter, Sally, passed away in 1866. Toombs made the decision to return to Georgia in February of 1867. In an effort to restore peace and order in the United States, President Andrew Johnson issued a proclamation of pardon on May 29, 1865, to those who had supported the Confederacy, and this pardon required that you had to take an oath of allegiance to the United States. On his return from Paris, Toombs did not seek this pardon, and even though he was considered to be a citizen of the state of Georgia, he never regained his United States citizenship. Toombs did resume his law practice in Washington, Georgia, and over time he did regain some of his political influence and continued to be outspoken on political matters. 1883 proved to be a turning point for Toombs. His son-in-law, Dudley DuBose, passed away, as did his friend and political ally, the former Confederate Vice President and Governor of Georgia, Alexander Stephens. And in September of 1883, his wife, Julia, passed away. I have read that after these events, Toombs struggled with depression, alcoholism, and ultimately lost his eyesight. Robert Augustus Toombs died on December 15, 1885, at the age of 75, likely due to a stroke. He is buried, along with his wife and other family members, at the Rest Haven Cemetery in Washington, Georgia. Robert Toombs is often characterized as a significant Southern political figure, notably championing Southern interest and states' rights. However, his position on slavery is undeniably condemned as misguided, indefensible, and unjustifiable. Historians have engaged in ongoing debates regarding Toombs' place in American history. While some depict him as a staunch advocate of constitutional principles, others view him as emblematic of the South's defense of slavery and secession. Now let's take a quick look at the home of Robert Toombs. It is located at 216 East Robert Toombs Avenue in Washington, Georgia. The house was not built by Robert Toombs. Dr. Joel Abbott, who was an 18-year-old physician from Connecticut, built the original structure beginning in December of 1791. This consisted of the main room and 2 rooms directly above, and by 1810 he had finished the front portion of the home. After Dr. Abbott passed away in 1826, his family permitted Presbyterian minister Alexander Webster Hamilton and his wife Elizabeth to live in the home. Webster died in 1828, and the house was then used as a women's seminary that was operated by Miss Ann Quigley. Attorney William Littlejohn Harris bought the house in 1834 and lived at the home with his wife and 3 children. Harris, along with his family, moved to Mississippi in 1836, and at this time Robert Toombs and his family moved in. In January of 1837, Toombs purchased the home. Beginning in 1837, and for many years after, Toombs made a lot of renovations to the house that changed the look of the outside and inside of the residence. All the renovations and additions were built around the original structure. The house is a 2-story wooden framework that is enhanced with a grand colonnade of fluted Doric columns. The primary entrance is framed by sidelight windows and crowned with a transom. Inside, the house is a tribute to Robert Toombs and his family and captures the spirit of the mid-19th century Antebellum South. The house was named a National Historic Landmark in 1973. The tour of the house is self-guided, and I will show you some images to give you a sense of how the inside looks today. Many items located throughout the home are original. Robert Toombs was here in the gentleman's parlor entertaining family and friends when Union troops showed up to arrest him. His wife, Julia, kept the soldiers detained at the front door of the home long enough for Toombs to escape. The portrait above the mantel is of Robert Toombs. The French clock, whale oil lanterns, bookcases, and marble-top table all belong to Toombs. The gasolier is also original. Now, I didn't know what a gasolier was. I had an idea, but anyway, I looked it up, and a gasolier is a type of chandelier that uses gas to operate. Here in the ladies' parlor, the portrait over the mantel is Julia Toombs, and above the piano is Sally Toombs DuBose. The Chickering piano is a donated piece, and Chickering is just a brand of piano. The gasolier in this room is thought to have been part of the Toombs home in Washington, D.C. The Belter furnishings are original. Belter furniture got its name from John Henry Belter, who was an American cabinet maker who created a way to produce three-dimensional wood floral patterns. Also, the wallpaper in this room is an exact replica of the design that Julia Toombs selected. The formal dining room features a portrait of Robert Toombs at the age of 75, and this was his age when he died. In this room, you see a fireplace, a formal dining table, stylish chairs, a sideboard, and other decorative elements. Now, the dining table, chairs, and sideboard are original to the house. And just off from the formal dining room, there is a dumbwaiter that was used to send up food from the kitchen, and also laundry and flower settings. This was Julia Toombs' bedroom. I am not sure what furnishings are original in this room, as the booklet that I had did not indicate any. There could very well be original items here, and if anyone knows, please comment. Also, I apologize for the darkness of some of these images, as I was using existing light, and some of these rooms were dark, and I am still learning the settings on my camera. In Robert Toombs' bedroom is a gentleman's rocker that did belong to him, and I assume that it is the rocker that you see on the left. Also, the shaving mirror and the shaving chest belong to Toombs. Above the mantel, in his bedroom, you will find another portrait of Robert Toombs. This is the office that Robert Toombs used when he was home. He could access the office from inside or outside of the house. Toombs practiced law in Atlanta and Wilkes County, as well as other surrounding counties. Toombs was very proud of the work he did in helping to write the Georgia Constitution of 1877. No doubt, some of this work was done here. About 1/3 of the books that you see in this room belong to Toombs. This is by no means the entirety of the house, but it does give you a glimpse of this beautiful southern mansion. I would encourage you to not only visit this house so that you can see it for yourself, but also take some time to check out the town of Washington, Georgia. There is so much history here to see that you will have no problem finding things to do. I would highly recommend it. I hope you enjoyed this video on Robert Toombs and his home, as well as seeing just a few of the other antebellum homes here in Washington, Georgia. The history of this area provides a snapshot of how the United States was shaped both nationally and regionally. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel, and if you liked this video, I would appreciate it so much if you would give it a thumbs up and also leave a comment. I will have another video out soon, and until then, I wish you all the best.